All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, October 20th, year of our Lord 2025, and we are going to have a good time today. Absolutely, a good time. You know, before we begin, I will say that the New York Jets found yet another way to embarrass themselves on Sunday. Very, very good game. Hilarious. It had it all. It had it all. I mean, you can't argue with it. It had offensive ineptitude. It had poor clock management by the head coach. And then it had a really funny thing that if you don't pay attention to the Jets, you might not know about. But last week after the game, one of the Jets beat writers, the media, the enemy, he asked Aaron Glenn a very, very reasonable question. The quarterback had played so poorly that he wondered, hey, was there any thought to maybe putting in the backup quarterback? And maybe benching this guy. He had a pretty bad game. And when he said pretty bad, that was an understatement. He had probably the worst game I've ever seen any quarterback have ever. Absolutely inept. In any case, the head coach got really mad at him for asking the question. He said, "Come on, what kind of question is that, man? Like you know better than that." Just like that. He talks just like that. So he got really mad at the media. But it was a totally reasonable question. Everybody knew that. And then this week, the quarterback, two quarters later, the quarterback has a continuation of the worst game you've ever seen any quarterback play ever. And he gets benched at halftime, which is the right move. But, it kind of goes to show you that it was a totally reasonable question when only one half of football later, you're benching him because he's continuing to play as poorly as you've ever seen anybody play ever. Well, obviously it didn't help. The backup comes in and he does look better, but still can't score touchdowns. I mean, I don't know how you do it. I mean, the NFL, all the rules are so lame that it's almost like you can accidentally score a touchdown. They want them to score more points, and so the rules are very kind of, it's not really football anymore. But they still can't score, which is hilarious. They lost again. They're 0-7, and I, for one, could not be happier. It's very funny. This season is going on perfectly as far as I'm concerned. But you don't come here to watch me talk about football, so let's begin now. All right. Well, today we're going to talk about a handful of different things. We'll see how far we get in it. But I was planning on talking about gold because, as you know, I'm not really a gold bug, but I do enjoy gold and silver and all that kind of stuff. I was going to talk about money and currency. I was going to talk maybe a little bit about Bitcoin, which, of course, every time I talk about Bitcoin, it pleases everybody. That's what I was going to do, and I still am going to talk about that a little bit because I think it's we're at a kind of a point of inflection, I think, when it comes to currency and money and all this kind of thing. So we'll get to that, but I wanted to talk about a few things, give some people some credit where credit is due, because I, for one, my heart is warm because I see all these guys out there, and it wasn't like this back when I first got online. When I first started doing a YouTube channel, there wasn't all these guys out there causing all this trouble. I'm not going to say that there weren't any, but there wasn't anywhere near the number, and they didn't get anywhere near the attention that a lot of these guys out there are getting today. And so the first one I have here is from Right Wing Watch. If you're not subscribed to Right Wing Watch on Twitter, you really need to take a look. I mean, because they post all the best content. Of course, that they're presumably against it, but everything that they post is just, man, like I'm right there with them. I mean, the guy that they're trying to smear, he's right, And this one is Joshua Hames, Christian nationalist podcaster Joshua Hames. And he says that Christians must be willing to defend the institution of slavery because the Bible makes it clear that, quote, it's not inherently evil to own another human being, end quote. That's true. That's very true. The Bible very clearly teaches that. And so let's hear Joshua Hames out and see the scary quotation of a Christian believing obviously Christian things. Let's begin.
The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know.
True.
Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it a step further.
That's
It
me.
is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know.
It's true.
Just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this because it is very important that every Christian.
I gotta say, like he's got some production quality to his show. I mean, this is not really my bag. I don't, obviously don't do that on this channel, but a lot of people really like that kind of thing. With the sound effects and all the snazzy, things and the set and all that. My office isn't even there's not even a complete wall back there. So it's not really my bag, but a lot of people like this, and I gotta say. He's right. It's not inherently evil to own another human being. That should be obvious. If you read the Bible, you believe it. That should be obvious. That doesn't mean that you should own a human being. That doesn't mean that every instance of owning a human being is morally permissible. Obviously, that doesn't mean that. But it's not inherently evil to own another human being. I don't understand how you could read the Bible and not come to that conclusion. But let him continue.
Affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said.
Yeah.
Okay?
I agree.
Every Christian should be able to defend it. Big evangelicalism has been getting this wrong for years. Basically, since the Genesis, since the advent of Big Eva. They haven't had a good answer for the slavery issue. All right, Christians in America have been led astray on this topic. They've been led to believe things that the Bible doesn't teach. And when we go beyond the Bible, there are dire consequences.
There are dire consequences. And you might say, well, listen, AD, what are the dire consequences? Like, we don't have a lot of slaves these days. Like, what does it hurt to mistakenly believe that the Bible teaches that it's inherently wrong to own another human being, even though God never taught that, and it's very obvious that he never taught that? What are the dangers, right? And, I think the danger is pretty obvious. It's not that I don't think that there's any imminent danger of slavery returning to the United States. I mean, would that it would be, because that would be a much more just system than the one we have currently. But I don't think we're in any danger of that. So what's the danger, right? Well, the danger is that if you can be convinced that the clear teaching of the Bible on this issue is actually not clear at all, you know what I mean? That's just the Old Testament. I mean, that was for Israel. I mean, it was a different time. Whatever it is they say, right? Whatever it is they say. Well, you can be convinced of anything. This is the starting point a lot of the time. The starting point is, well, you don't believe what the Bible says about slavery, so why would you believe about what it says about gays, and stuff like that. And though you, as a smart person who watches the A.D. Robles YouTube channel, would never be convinced by something like that, many people are. It affects many people. That's an argument that actually works on a lot of people. And so when it's not normalized to defend every jot and tittle of what the Bible teaches is morally good or morally acceptable or ethically permissible, when you're not practiced at that, you're really taking a huge weapon out of the hands of your young people. You know what I mean? I think we should be normalizing defending what the Bible says. Oh, you don't like that the Bible says that, there are some instances where it's okay to own another human being? Well, tough luck. Take it up with the Lord, because that's what he says. And let me explain to you why that would actually be a better system than the system that we have today. And that should be normalized, that kind of conversation. So anyway, hats off to Joshua Hames. He is exactly right. That is true. Right Wing Watch, stamp of approval. Let's go to the next one. This one was very interesting, right? You hear all this talk about the No Kings rally and all that. I don't even know what they're protesting, but, no kings. We don't believe in kings. That, at least it's that. At least I know that much. There's no kings out there. We don't believe in kings. Well, I got to be honest with you. I watched this video from TikTok, and I don't know. I see no less than 4 kings up on the stand right here. This is what Susie Rizzio says. Susie Rizzio says, this church's pastor was speaking on a podcast and said that black youth need to be stoned. The other day, when questioned about it, these same guys were laughing about it. Apparently, they don't like being protested now. We know what kind of church this is, and it's dangerous. So here is a TikTok video of a group of protesters going to the Refuge Church in Utah to protest the church because these guys said that black youth need to be stoned. Let's hear what they have to say.
What do you have to say about your pastor saying to stone black youth? Tell the people. He said it on a podcast. It's online. He said it on a podcast. We have it recorded.
He said to stone rebellious youth.
Okay, he said rebellious.
First of all, let me just analyze this clip for you for a little bit. He's got the ear out. I'm listening. You know what I mean? He's listening. He looks completely unbothered, unfazed. He's like, hey, I want to hear you. I want to hear you. He's got the ear, very, very emphatic gesture. I'm listening, you know. And he says, what do you think? Your pastor says you got to stone black youth. You got to stone black youth. And he's there and he's listening. He's listening. And then he puts his hands up. He's like, I guess everybody shut up. I got something to say. And everybody, you know, it's a very powerful gesture to put your hands up. Shut up, everybody. And they all listen, you know, even though they're protesting. They all listen. They give him some time to speak. And he said, he didn't say black youth. He said stone rebellious youth. Oh, man, I love it. I love it. I mean, it's perfect. Absolute perfection. You know, yeah, he didn't exactly say it. He said rebellious youth. They all freak out.
He said to stone rebellious youth.
Okay, he said rebellious black youth.
And then he goes, yeah, am I right? Am I right, rebellious? He said to stone rebellious youth, huh? Yeah? What a showman.
There's stone rebellious youth. You think youth should be killed instead of taught? You think youth should be killed instead of taught? Do you have children? So you think that your children should be killed instead of taught if they're rebellious? Okay, well then, what do you have to say about...
And you can see how this directly ties into what we were just saying, right? The rebellious youth law, okay? It's exactly the same kind of thing. Are you willing to defend that law as morally good? God gave that law to the Israelites. Are you ready to defend it? Because I am. I'll defend that law. I'll defend it, and I'll explain exactly why I agree with it and why I think it's good. It doesn't matter really what I think. I mean, God says it's good. That should be enough for most Christians. But I think it's helpful to understand the law and all of that, and I completely agree with it. And we got to normalize this, right? We got to normalize this. But instead, we've been taught to apologize for it. And I don't mean in the apologetic way. I mean like in the, we're sad about it. We're sorry. You know, it doesn't really say what it says, you know, that kind of thing. And that's not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to be able to withstand these kinds of arguments because it doesn't end here, obviously. Every piece of morality is on the table once you agree or try to apologize for things that God says. In fact, my advice to you is your life will be a lot easier if you simply do not apologize for what the Bible says. You can be just like Brian here. I'm sorry, not Brian. Man, his name is escaping me now that I'm talking. Whatever. You could be Ben. You could be just like Ben here, completely unbothered, and just flat out say it and, you know, let the crowds do what they will. I think a lot of people, though, a lot of Christians don't have the nerve for stuff like this. I mean, these guys are here. They're unbothered. I wouldn't be surprised if they're armed. I wouldn't be surprised if they were ready for this, expecting this kind of thing. Unbothered, completely unbothered. And I got to say, I, for one, this warms my heart. So good job to Ben and the lads up in Ogden, or I guess over in Ogden. Let's continue. I heard that Room for Nuance guy here has done a podcast episode with Danny Aiken, trying to rehabilitate Danny Aiken's image for being woke, you know, and all of that. And that is this guy's role. I mean, if you go through my channel's catalog, this I forget what this show used to be called, but I've talked about this show before. This guy's role is all about rehabilitation. He's a guild member, or he's trying to get into the guild, and so he'll never go against the family. You know what I mean? So he will do what he's told. That's this guy's use. He will do what he's told. And the thing is, he's allowed to be against things like wokeness, but it's in a completely controlled way, in a completely ineffective way, and that's kind of the point. So he takes his orders, he does as he's told, and that kind of thing. I heard that Michael Foster is going to be on his show, and maybe a couple other guys. My advice to those guys is, if you want to make sure that episode sees the light of day, record it yourself. because I was once on this show, and of course the recording never made it to the people. And you could probably assume why that didn't happen. And the episode was about should Democrats be church disciplined, and I completely schooled them on it. I completely schooled them on why. I completely schooled them on all the ways they were trying to straw man what I was saying, because what they were trying to get people to believe was what I was saying was that someone says they're thinking about voting Democrat, they're out of the church, right? But no, I actually believe in real church discipline where there's conversations, there's time that passes, there's pleading, there's all this kind of stuff, individual, with the group, with the church, and all that kind of thing. Anyway, so I schooled them on all that. Of course, they didn't upload it. And I didn't have the shrewdness to record that kind of stuff myself. I mean, nowadays, if you invite me on a show and we're going to have an antagonistic conversation, I'm going to record it. Simple as that, because I want to make sure that it's out there in its full form. But in any case, here he is talking to Danny Aiken. Danny Aiken.
Obviously not the same thing, but I had a meeting with a church member who was persuaded that I was leading my church as the pastor in a direction of wokeness, which, if you know me, is pretty funny because I'm the anti-woke guy, okay? So now...
You are not the anti-woke guy. It's obvious that you're not. You might be theoretically opposed to wokeness, but there's nothing anti-woke about you. You won't do anything about it. You know what I mean? You'll say some things that are true about being against wokeness and all that kind of stuff. And when it comes to actually doing anything about it, you're not the guy, right? So I know it's part of your building up your resume. I am the anti-woke stalwart and all this kind of stuff. It's just simply not the case, and everybody that has a brain can see it. But let's continue.
Having said that, because I'm so firm in those convictions, I actually have a little latitude for gospel preaching, Bible believing brothers who believe in the inerrancy of Scripture, penal substitutionary atonement, uniqueness of Christ and salvation, who disagree with me on some of these other sociological questions related to race in America. I have room for them, you know, and I'm not ready to just write them off as heretics because
dude, you're so unique, man. I've never talked to anybody like you. I've never talked to anybody like you. Like seriously, are you telling me that you're the firm anti-woke guy, but yet you have room for people that disagree with you on some of those issues, and you're not ready to kick them out of the church and say they're heretics? And dude, that is quite a stance. I've never heard of such a thing in my entire life. Except that I actually am that kind of guy too. I'm actually that kind of guy. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, it's just amazing that you're this unique individual. Like what? Yeah, it's all resume building. I get it. Like when you're having a conversation like this, where you're about to throw softballs to Danny Aiken and try to rehabilitate him from being this woke, preacher, this woke seminary president, and all this kind of stuff. You've got to give us your bona fides so that we can trust you, right? Like, I get it. I understand what you're doing. But this is not unique. This is not unique. All of the actual anti-woke people, for example, myself, don't just discard these people. And if you want proof, I've got hundreds of videos about this where I say that exact thing. And I've got a book where I say that exact thing. But the difference between me and you is that I'm actually anti-woke. I actually do something about it. I actually want to do more about it. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
Disagree on a secondary matter and sometimes even a tertiary matter in relation to this stuff. But I'm sitting with this brother, and I think he's a brother, but he's convinced that I'm going woke and I'm turning the tide of the church in that direction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what I say to him. He says, well, Mark Dever and Jonathan Lehman are woke and you have their resources in there. And I'm like, you don't know them. I know them. I'm your pastor. Listen to me. Don't listen to a discernment blog. No. Listen to me. I'm telling you, this is crazy. And I'm giving him, and that was probably part of the problem, but I'm trying to lay out.
Listen to how he presents this. This is fascinating to me. This is absolutely fascinating to me. Because when you hear a story like this, and this is true of stories on the other side, right? Of people who, get kicked out of their church, like even the Daniel Keene story, right? You always, when you listen to these stories, you have to understand it's not about whether the guy's lying to you or not, although sometimes that is a factor, and people tell unbelievable stories that are just obviously lies. But it's not so much about that, but you have to understand when you're hearing a story from somebody, you're hearing it from their perspective, right? You're hearing it from their perspective. And I've been around the block too many times to just say, well, it must have happened exactly like he's telling it, right? Because oftentimes, and this is hard to avoid, especially when you're in the story, right? It's hard to avoid adding editorial notes to the story. You know what I mean? Because in your mind, you have all kinds of thoughts, you have all kinds of perspective, and when you're telling the story, it's just so natural to just editorialize it a little bit, just to twist it a little bit with your perspective as opposed to the facts. It is so hard to avoid doing that. In fact, I don't even know if it's possible to avoid doing that. So anytime someone's telling a story, you have to understand that the way they're telling it is in such a way, and sometimes it's just as small as using a passive verb as opposed to an active verb, or just like small little changes that kind of put you in the best possible light, right? That's what they're trying to do. And I don't even think that they're trying to do it, but your brain just naturally does that. It's a very bizarre thing to think through because you can't actually help it. Like even good liars will do this, and anyway, it's a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. The way one way to learn about this is to watch police interrogations, especially with a commentator that's a linguist, right? Can tell you about the linguistic tools that people are using, and sometimes they're intentional, sometimes they're not, but they can tell you a lot. Anyway, the point is, when somebody's telling a story about an interaction, especially a confrontational one, they're telling the story in such a way that makes them look as good as possible, right? And even when they're not outright lying to you, they're still attempting to tell the story in a way that maybe lowers the blame a little bit, or whatever the case may be, right? And so I assume everyone's doing that at all times, right? Everyone's doing that at all times. It's hard to avoid doing it. But what's so fascinating about this is he's obviously doing this. Everybody does this. This is not a knock on him. He's obviously doing it. But the story still makes him look horrendous. It's still, like, no matter how he tries to finagle it and finesse it, what he's telling you is that the guy came to him with arguments. Mark Dever's woke, Jonathan Lehman's woke, and you're promoting their stuff in your church, right? And you don't even have to agree with him that that's a problem, right? I'm not even saying that that's a big problem. Like, I can understand why someone would share 9 marks of a healthy church. Like, that's not, like, just because Lehman's woke doesn't mean that there's no value in that, right? And that's really all that takes is, like, to argue with someone like that. It's like, look, I mean, I argue with Lehman all the time, but, 9 marks of a healthy church is a pretty good book. It's a pretty good book. I'm not going to say you can't read it. It's not woke, you know what I mean? Like, anyway. He's putting these arguments forward, and Room for Nuance guy's argument is, look, church member, I know these guys. Trust me, they're not woke. Trust me. Like that. Look, but Pastor, I see them saying all this woke stuff. Jonathan Lehman went to the Black Lives Matter rally. His church was closed at the time. His church was closed because COVID was scary, too scary to have church. But he showed up that Sunday at the Black Lives Matter rally. What am I missing here? And his argument is, and again, this is the argument that he's putting forward, telling the story in such a way to make him look so good. Trust me. I know him. I know him personally. You gotta trust your Why don't you trust your pastor? But Pastor, what about the black? No. Trust me. I know him. I know him. It's unbelievable. Oh, man. That's the story. The story is, he came to me with these arguments, and I was like, trust me. I mean, I know the guy. He's not woke. What are you talking about, woke? I know him. That's as best he's got. Now, Now let me psychologize this a little bit, okay? As you know, I'm a noted psychologist. It's a joke. I'm not a psychologist at all. But let me psychologize this a little bit. Why does he think that will make him look good? Right? Because my argument, my premise is that when somebody tells a story about a confrontation, the way they tell it, even if they're trying not to, even if they're intentionally trying not to do this, the language that they use, the verb conjugations that they use, the voice that they use is always going to be deployed in a way that makes them look as good as possible. That is natural. That happens. You just need to understand that. It's not any fault of their own. It's just how we work. And so he's doing that here. Why does he think telling this story the way he's telling it is going to make him look good? Because for a regular person like me just watching this, it should be obvious that that's going to make you look really bad, right? Like, he's coming to you with problems and arguments, and you're coming to him with trust me. Trust me, bro, I'm your pastor. Why does he think that? Well, here's why he thinks that. Because he's not trying to impress you, and he's not trying to impress God. He's trying to impress Danny Aiken and guys like him. He's trying to impress the guild. My argument about Room for Nuance guy is that he's on a perpetual interview with becoming one of the A-list, the tier. There's a tier list in Big Eva. He wants to be one of the A-listers, right? And he's not yet. He's rising the ranks. I don't know what list he's on, but he's not tier 1. He's not A-list, but he wants to be. And so his life is lived, and the choices he makes for his content are all with that in mind. And so this story is him bragging, essentially. And again, could be subconscious. I'm not saying he's conscious about this, but look, I'm one of you guys. I'll always defend you. It doesn't matter what they say about what evidence they have. Tim Keller said this, and John Lehman said that, and Russell Moore said this. Like, what about that? Like, they're totally woke. They're woke, man.
For him,
He's like,
conservative.
He's like, I'm one of you. I got your back, man. I know him. Trust me. That's what's happening here.
Bona fides. And then I just realized, it doesn't matter what I say. His mind is made up.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the word.
Right. It doesn't matter. And this is the thing. Like, and even that, it's spun, right? I'm giving you all of Jonathan Lehman's bona fides. I mean, he believes the Baptist face of the message. He's conservative. He's reformed. Yeah. Pastor, I got that. But he went to the Black Lives Matter rally. He said all these other things too. Like, can you help me out here? I mean, you're telling me he's this stalwart conservative. I mean, he says the same thing. Jonathan Lehman, of course, is a stalwart conservative. But, he also says all this liberal stuff. So what about it? And Room for Nuance guy goes, why am I even bothering? His mind is already made up. It doesn't matter what I say. His mind is made up. And so that's a tool, right? Because what it's trying to get you to believe is that this guy's, and maybe he was. I'm not saying, I don't know this interaction, I'm just taking it from his perspective, right? But it has to be, his mind was made up. His mind is closed. He won't listen to anything, right? Or, I think this is much more likely. He's saying, yeah, I hear that, I see that, I understand, but he also closed down his church because COVID was too scary, and instead of going to church, went to the Black Lives Matter rally because I guess COVID isn't too scary for the Black Lives Matter rally. So it's too scary to worship God with the saints, but it's not scary enough to go to the Black Lives Matter rally. Help me understand. I know how these conversations go, man. I've been in them. When you ask a question like that, the response essentially is, well, I guess your mind's just made up. You won't listen to reason. No. You're not listening to reason. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm acknowledging it. You say he's conservative. He says he's conservative. He says he's not woke. You say he's not woke. But here is the evidence. This goes back to the thing I said about Gavin Ortland. It's like, yeah, sure, I hear what you're saying, but I also see what you're doing, right? I'm not falling for the wizard spell anymore. You could say whatever you want, but it's more about what you're doing. You can say anything, but it's more about what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, again, I've said this example many times. Like, I believe that the dollar is being debased, right? I believe that the dollar today is worth less than the dollar yesterday, and it's going to be worth even less tomorrow. And if you look at my investments and my assets and what I hold and what I just spend, all of the evidence will show you that I actually do believe that, right? I actually do believe that. So when I have dollars, I only hold as many dollars as I need to transact in everyday life, right? Because you do need some. You need dollars because people take dollars, right? You have to pay your taxes in dollars. So you need enough dollars to get through day-to-day life. But everything else, when it comes to savings, when it comes to investments, when it comes to assets, everything else is something else. It's not dollars. I don't save dollars. I just don't, because I don't believe that dollars will be valuable tomorrow. So why would I save in dollars if dollars won't be valuable tomorrow, right? So my actions match up with my words. And so if you were to see my investment portfolio and my assets and all this stuff, and then you hear my words, you would say, oh, yeah, he actually does believe that. But if I were to say the same stuff, the dollar's being debased, the dollar's going to be, worthless tomorrow, today it's, all that stuff, same stuff. But then I'm investing in tons of treasuries, and I've got hordes of cash in my house. I keep it under the mattress at night and all this kind of stuff. You would be like, well, you don't actually believe that. You're saying it. I know you feel like it sounds good, but you actually don't believe it. Even though you say you believe it, you don't believe it because your actions don't actually line up with what you're saying. That's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. I'm the most anti-woke person ever, but I actually won't fight against anyone woke at all. I just won't do it. I won't actually do anything about it.
The world changed radically in 2020 for three reasons. One was COVID. Mm-hmm. Two was the election. Mm-hmm. And number three, the tension about race.
Yeah. I call it the triumvirate of hell.
Yes. And I've got good. Do
you see that? Like this is the thing. Like their perspective, this guy's perspective and Aiken's perspective is totally opposite your perspective. Right? Because when I look at that time and I think of those three things, right? The race stuff, the COVID stuff, the election. What I see is this massive opportunity that people had, and a lot of people took it, to see behind the curtain. The wizard, the great and powerful Oz, was there like he always is. The fire is bursting, and he's talking in his booming voice, right? And then in a year, Toto pulls the curtain, and you can see that the great and powerful Oz is just a guy controlling little levers and making the fire go. It's nothing magical. It's nothing powerful. It's the Emperor's got no clothes. That's what I look at that. And tons of people found out that, man, I'm starting to think that they're lying to us. You know what I mean? It was a tremendous opportunity for people, and so many people had their minds opened at that moment. They saw it all happen in real time. They saw the narrative spinning in real time. And it was it wasn't a great year, but it was a great year for people to understand, really, they've done a number on us. They've done a huge number on us, and we got to figure out, how deep this goes. These guys look at it as, that's hell. It's hell for people to actually see, oh yeah, they're lying to us. You know what I mean? That's hell. The triumvirate of hell. It's wild. It's wild. We're going to continue this. I like this. We're going to continue this. Danny Aiken, looking very defensive posture right now. You body language experts can analyze this image. Very defensive posture right now, and talking to his buddy. This is very interesting stuff, man. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.